to WarrenThornton.com. We've got a bumper show for you tonight. We'll be talking about lots and lots of things. Later on, we'll be joined by Paul Brooker for the second hour or for the rest of the show. And of course, we will be digging into some nonsense that's gone on. We'll be digging into this later on in the show, which is basically an absolute nothing, a whole lot of nothing with the Epstein files. Which are a redacted disgrace, and we'll be asking who they're protecting, because it certainly looks along the lines that they're protecting someone, because you may as well have just produced, like we did there, blank sheets of black paper, because it's so heavily redacted, all these, this so-called drop and everything else, a bigger con than the actual thing that you saw in the first place, where we had all sorts of problems. In terms of being given a folder, there was nothing in it whatsoever that was of any use. There has, however, been some major meltdowns over the Putin, Xi, India, China get-together. Everybody's been getting really, really upset about this, especially us in the West, which seems an absolutely stupid thing. So we put this together because we knew full well that this will upset the entire West. Do enjoy for 10 seconds.
Looking back on the track for a little greenback. Got to find just the kind of losing my mind.
There we go. That's them getting a little upset. And why did we put that up? Well, Kim Jong-un has a sense of humour. I don't think many people realise that he actually does. But while he was having a walk along with them, they were talking about, and they were strolling along talking to each other. Of course, he made a joke about the Reservoir Dogs, that everybody in the West is going to think we're Reservoir Dogs. So Kim Jong-un making everybody giggle there. One of those, and then Putin playing along as well, which is quite funny. Mark Chamberlain. Mark, you've got your hand up, buddy.
Sorry, Warren. I'm on a new laptop, and it was a complete mistake.
Okay, not a problem at all. We'll just lower that down there. So that was quite amusing. And of course, they were all there at the Chinese military display, of course. But we're going to have a look at some of that, because we've had the West coming out already and getting very, very far forward on their skis, getting very upset and having a bit of a meltdown. Now, when we say a bit of a meltdown, we are talking about, of course, the Sun newspaper, but they've been going into it with the Heritage Foundation, of all people. And, of course, the Heritage Foundation are one of these, shall we say, terrible, terrible bunch of people who like to start wars all around the globe and everything else. And, of course, they... Literally, the Sun newspaper went and got hold of one of these guys from the Heritage Foundation and started banging on about, how terrible it is. Literally, China have got no firepower. It's going to be no good and all the rest of it. Let's have a little look. So here we go. Look, hypersonic laser cannons. Eric Jones wants to jump in. Eric? No? Oh. Hypersonic nukes, lasers and robot dogs. China shows off high-tech new weapons, but is all that it seems. Many are still doubting the true nature of Beijing's weaponry and their ability to use them on the battlefield. Really, the lavish event, blah, blah, blah. China has shown the world the latest high-tech weapons being added to a growing military arsenal, but is all as it seems. President Xi Jinping wheeled out flashy new hypersonic nukes, laser cannons and robot dogs, among a slew of other impressive weapons at his major military parade in Beijing. Now, of course, there are some pictures of that, of course. And it says, with the world watching, Xi smiled as he walked, flanked by Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin. The parade marked the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II and was a big chance for Xi to flaunt his military might on the world stage. An endless row of tanks, yeah, absolutely an endless row of tanks. And drones, armoured trucks, missiles, both sea and airplanes were shown off to both the Chinese people and the country's rivals. But some are still doubting the true nature of Beijing's weaponry and their ability to use them on the battlefield. Rob Peters Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. This is a Washington-based think tank, which is totally, shall we say, American. It is one of these think tanks who plots wars for America, who we're going to go and batter next. It told the Telegraph foreign officials, that's MI6, which will be looking for technical indicators to judge whether the weapons look real or bullshit. Mr. Peters added, whenever China shows new exquisite technologies, it's good to remember it should be a little bit cautious so they've got the best stuff and they know how to use it. This from the people who melt down every time they say there's Chinese interference. It is quite staggering and quite shocking. Sean Murphy and then Mark Breckle.
Well, we all know, Warren, that it's all paper mache really on the back of those trucks with a bit of grey paint slashed on.
It is quite staggering, isn't it? Good call. Mark Breckle.
Well, again, the Sun's got the Sun Ukraine at war on YouTube. Honestly, they could turn the glass eye to sleep. They still think Ukraine's winning.
Yeah, they do. God bless them. And of course, they're just going to keep going on with this nonsense. So let's have a little look and let's discuss some of it. Because, of course, we've been very, very lucky in the fact that we've been allowed to go along to quite a few of these things that's been taking place in China. The Chinese parade has been quite impressive, but you can judge for yourself. Let's have a little look. So that's one of many videos we've got to show you because, of course, Lee Williams, very quickly.
Yeah. Where anyone of them got a beer belly or anything, no?
No, it doesn't look like it, does it?
No.
When you see some of the parades that we've been seeing. Let's have a little look. So there we go. There's a little bit of that there, and we've got a little bit more for you. Of course, we wanted to cover it completely. Let's have a little look at this.
Сейчас проходит расчет народного ополчения. По него первым вошли женщины из районов страны, где в годы войны.
And of course, that was the ladies marching. We've got a little bit more of the parade for you as well. Here's a few of the choppers. Of course, they were sending those up as well as all the tanks and everything else on the parade. Everybody seemed to be having a fine time. Let's have a little look at this. This is the... That's that one. And finally, let's have a little look at this one as well. This is pretty well documented as well. Here's the ladies having a little march around.
This is the militia division led by Thornton and Beverly. The militia comprises female soldiers in different organizations. There, there is widely comprehensive service to the army, receiving regular training to maintain their empowerment.
Got to say, the marching is fairly impressive. It's one of those, it's a long way, to be honest, the Chinese are no bother at all. Our diversity and inclusion people will look after them in the space of a couple of minutes. So I don't think we have anything to worry about. Anybody even looking at that and thinking it might not be a good idea to take them on in an open war, especially miles and miles away from home. I don't think we have anything to worry about that. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but one of those, I don't think it's probably a good idea. Let's leave that at home, shall we? But there are Americans out there who think it's a good idea.
Now, where these other countries are having to respond. And, China, I will note, I mean, most of the military equipment they demonstrated in this parade was technology most likely stolen from the United States or our allies. And, they couldn't fight the United States if they tried. We are the only world superpower with the biggest, strongest economy. And that's what we need to continue to do. We need to continue to invest in our defense. And we also need to make sure that we continue to protect the American dream and the American entrepreneur.
Kevin Ling turned around in the chat and said that, of course, Virgin Atlantic have increased their watchfulness because, of course, there was that story, of course, when the Chinese were having naval drills right beside Australia. Took somebody from Virgin Atlantic to turn around and say what was going on. Sean Murphy.
Well, you get all these US politicians and advisors and ambassadors and that. It must take years and years and years to brainwash them to the extent that they're actually very brainwashed now.
Yeah, it does seem a very strange thing, doesn't it? When you sort of look at it and you go, I'm not sure that they've really got their finger on the pulse, as it were. Would that be wrong?
No, absolutely correct.
And as Putin has come out and said, he wants trade. He doesn't, it's very much all about equal rights for all. Let's have a listen to what he's had to say.
I wouldn't really speak about any domineering pose. It doesn't mean that this new multipolar world should have any hegemons, because no one is speaking about this, not in BRICS, not in the SCO. Everyone has equal rights in this multipolar world. And from international law point of view, everyone must have equal rights, must be in the similar position. Yes, there are economic giants like India or China, and actually our country is among top 4 biggest economies, if we speak about the purchasing power parity. These are the current realities. That's not something that we would like to have. That's what international organizations calculate, but it doesn't mean that anyone should dominate over the politics or
over global security. He's absolutely right, and if that's the case, then I'm fully behind it. Lee Williams.
I was going to say, was there any Americans there at all? I don't think so, because not one actually spoke out. Not one.
No. I don't know. Well, he was. Let's put it this way. He was asked. Donald Trump was asked to go.
Дональд попросил меня, если возможно, провести такую встречу. Я сказал, да, это возможно. Ну, в конце концов, если Зеленский готов, пусть приезжает в Москву. Такая встреча состоится.
Putin turning around and saying he did tell Donald Trump that if Zelensky wants to meet, he's more than welcome to come to Moscow. Can't see that happening, can you? 9 million years. It is unbelievable when you watch. John says he watched Prime Minister's question time today. So out of touch, it's unreal. They are out of touch, and I've got to say, is a little bit more.
Again, that new pipeline he's building for China is absolutely massive.
It is.
You know, they've got to realise when Russia does something, it does it on a big scale, it does it right, but it's never disrespectful to anybody, and that's what makes him a good president. That's why the Russians love him.
I've got to say, their honour guard was absolutely banging.
На площади выстраиваются линейные расчеты. По 30 с каждой стороны.
I've got to say, I'm always struck, as being an ex-soldier, I always like a bit of military precision. I am a big fan of that, I've got to say. These interchangeable warheads.
Боеголовками публике представлена стратегическая ядерная межконтинентальная ракета на жидком топливе.
Of course, the Russians, the Chinese, and now the Indians are asking for exactly the same thing. Can they have the same sort of toys, shall we say, as everybody else is getting? And people are turning around and saying there's no reason why we can't. Why people can't have these things. One of those, Kim Jong-un as well, and Putin had a meeting after. And just in case you don't know about Kim Jong-un's daughter, you haven't followed the show very much. She's no shrinking violet either. She's not somebody who's going to be run right over in a second. It is one of those where they decided to get together, and as we say, when we look at everything that they're wanting to have a meeting and get together and everything else, Fico and Putin. All these countries are turning around and saying they've had enough. Now, I do not understand, will never understand, why we think that making an enemy or trying to push these people into things that they don't want to do, it is quite staggering that people would turn around and get so upset about this. There was something else as well. This guy's in trouble in Australia. His name's Dan Andrews, and he's a union rep and a councillor. And he managed to photobomb himself with all
I can tell you, I can say the government was not informed by any private citizens about their travel to this parade.
So just to be clear, you're saying Dan Andrews didn't tell the government I will be attending?
I can say the government was not consulted or informed about their attendance at these private...
And of course, the Australians are having an absolute meltdown that he went along. Of course, if he'd have said he was attending, they probably would have taken his passport off him and stopped him from going. But he was allowed to go. I think that's rather wonderful that the Labour Victorian Labour Premier was shaking Xi Jinping's hand. Why not? These people just want to get along. I don't get it. We seem to want a desperate row with absolutely everybody, and they do not. I don't know about anybody else. I don't know what anybody else feels about it, but it just seems as though it is an incredibly stupid thing to be fighting with countries that just want to, shall we say, make sure that everybody gets a fair crack at the whip. And of course, Ukraine TV were one of the ones who were having a meltdown. In fact, they cut all the people out of their picture. So they just showed it as the people from China, which was their propaganda. Oh, it's just Putin and it's just China. But the reality, of course, as you can see at the bottom there, is all the world leaders that did attend, including Modi and everybody else. So the reactions around the world were, should we say, slightly crazy, to say the least. We had this one, which I thought was unbelievable. I'm hoping that this is Donald Trump just having a bit of a joke here. He's got a twisted sense of humour. The big question to be answered is whether or not President of China will mention the massive support and of course, the aid and blood that the United States gave to China in order to help secure its freedom from a very unfriendly foreign invader. Many Americans died in China's quest for victory and glory. I hope they are rightfully honoured and remembered for their bravery and sacrifice. May President Xi and the wonderful people of China have a great and lasting day of celebration. Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America. Really? You think that's what it is? Do you think maybe that it might have been that your behaviour towards these countries has prompted them to turn to each other for support? Does seem rather strange. But then again, that could be Putin just having a joke. One never knows. Sorry. That could be Trump just having a joke. One never knows. Let's have a look at this. These are the Chinese hypersonic missiles. They are the YJ-17s. They are capable of reaching almost anywhere at all. And of course, they are based sharing technology with the Russians, and they seem to be doing this all around the globe, which is kind of a great thing, because it's pretty much saying that anybody can be in the club. It's not a problem. You don't have to, as long as you haven't got sanctions against another country, you can be part of it. Mark Breckle.
Well, again, Western news won't pick this up. Actually, the creator of the Su-25 attack aircraft, Yuri Ivanov, he's died at 91. So, again, on the post, we express our sincere condolences to family and friends. So there's always something nice that they say, and for a guy that's done so much. So I don't know why America has to be so funny with Russia.
It's one of them, isn't it? I don't think it's him so much, but it is the fact that the absolute stupidity of it, and this is going to hurt, and of course it's going to hurt. Now I do not understand the foreign policy, because normally the foreign policy would be, if you've got two people that you consider your enemy, make one of them your friend, I would have thought. But this is obviously the power of Siberia's gas pipeline that they're going to have, and of course every single bit of shall we say, that gas that was going to Europe is now going to go to China. China are going to buy it all. And they're quite happy to have it because of their industrialization. They need it. Now, Europe is going to be buying theirs from the USA at 3, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. And in Germany's case, 4.5 times the price. And of course, von der Leyen has turned around and said she's going to take so much military equipment as well as the gas from them. And of course, that deal she's been hammered for, nillers.
Yeah, Qatar is also a massive producer of gas. And the Europeans wanted to build a pipeline for that, but the ruler of Qatar said, no, if you want my gas, you're going to have to export it by ship. Because he didn't want to be tied like Putin was with the pipeline. And
Yeah.
I don't think pipelines ever going to be reused again because Europe has so misused it, and it's ally America as well.
It does seem a very, very strange thing, doesn't it, that they're going to, shall we say, behave in this manner towards each other. I don't get it. I really don't get it. But we'll sort of get into that. Yeah, go on.
Even if relations are normalised between Europe and Russia, I think Europe is going to get its gas by ship because what's the point in opening a pipeline where it could just be used as a weapon against you?
It does seem a very stupid thing, doesn't it? If you've got cheap gas and it's available, why wouldn't you want to take it? That does seem, or is it just me? You know, it does seem. Go on.
No, it's not just you. No, it's just the. Well, as we know, the German industrialists are pulling their hair out about it, but they've had the Green Party to contend with it because that's been in power right up until just a few weeks ago, and German industry is either having to leave Germany or close down.
Yeah, it does seem a very, very strange and bizarre thing, doesn't it? And we'll get into that a bit more. Mark Breckle.
Well, back to your sanctions. 20 litres of fuel in Russia is still 11 quid.
That's very strange, isn't it? Very, very strange.
So obviously the sanctions don't work.
The sanctions don't work. They never have worked. This is another thing that is bizarre. It is once again. Let's have another package of sanctions. Why would you do that? I just don't get it at all. You know, and you sort of look at people, don't you? You go, not good, not good. People are going to get worse and worse over this. Sean Murphy.
Well, I see the Berlin Motor Works, or BMW as we call them, will probably shortly be renamed as the Beijing Motor Works.
Yes, yeah. It is a crazy thing, isn't it? Because you look at everything that's going on and you just think, why can't you just be friends? You know, with the gas pipeline and everything, they've just shot themselves in the foot. Mark Breckle.
Well, so when I said to you about that garage in Domodossovo, every single car that you can think on this planet is coming from China, dropping off from China into Russia. It's stupid. If there's a market for it, why would you be awkward and cut your own throat? I don't get Germany's cut its own throat with its gas.
Oh, yes.
And fuel, and cut its own throat, obviously, with its vehicle manufacturer. So there doesn't seem any sense to it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And how can I put this? The levels of craziness now are getting beyond belief. I don't know if anybody caught Christine Lagarde's idea, which is beyond stupid. So let's get into what she had to say. So she doesn't want any changes of government anywhere in the EU. Not one. She doesn't want any voting. She wants the government to stay in power, all the governments, until this conflict is over. Now, what she's turned around and said, she's called for stopping democracy, basically, despite the economic problems many countries in the Eurozone and the EU are facing. It is necessary for all current governments of these countries to remain in power and maintain their current course. The resignation of Russophobic officials could pose even greater threats to the economy. As an example, she mentioned France, whose government could fall due to a vote of no confidence from the opposition. Lagarde noted that Paris needs to reduce its budget deficit, and we will help them with that if we can. But it is important that Macron stays in power until this is over. So what she's calling for is nobody leaves office whatsoever, not Starmer, not Macron, not Merz, no one. Sean Merz.
Well, we all know how that she's convicted as a criminal.
Yes.
And she has probably got her fingers in every pie going in all the countries in Europe. And she's happy with the way things are at the moment because she's getting massive rake-offs. And she obviously doesn't want things to change because if things change in various countries, they may see themselves failing. Well, they are failing. And she's quite happy for them to ruin themselves economically, as long as she's getting her rake-offs. So when it comes out in the end and everybody's sort of destitute and poor, she will be mega rich and be able to rule the roost.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're probably right. Mark Reck.
Well, again, there's a Facebook post. Germans are only white. Now, if you look at France, that's full of immigrants as well. You wouldn't spend, I don't know, like 400 quid or whatever to go on a romantic trip to Paris when you're frightened to death of getting stabbed to death by a load of immigrants. Again, that doesn't make any sense to me either.
No, it doesn't. It makes no sense whatsoever, and I think you're absolutely right. There are many, many things. Should we say that there is no, should we say, rhyme or reason behind it? And we have to look at some of the nonsense. Nillis?
I can't remember his name, but it's a YouTube world traveler, and he's saying, I've traveled the world, but the three most dangerous places for me are third, Marseille, second is Naples, and the first one was Paris. He said, well, I'd never go out and walk alone at night. Yeah. And that's a radical difference from what it used to be.
Tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it? Let's have a little look at this.
Okay. Done? Just done. Thank you.
Now, there are Western think tanks saying that actually coming out and telling people that picture is AI, that meeting was all AI. It is quite incredible that these people are coming out saying it. Have a little listen to this. This is Kaya Kallis, and I'm always calling her out as one of the most lunatic Nazi people that you could ever imagine. I rest my case with this.
We are Danes. We haven't spent a lot on presidential gifts and stuff, but in front of you, you see a pen, which is not an ordinary pen or just any pen. It's made by Ukrainian bullet cases collected from the battlefield. So I hope you will appreciate this small gift.
So just let me run that by you again. That is Ukrainian bullets that have been fired at Russian soldiers, made into the shell casings, made into a pen and given out by Denmark to Kaya Kallis because they know how much she hates the Russians. It is beyond belief. Mark Reckle.
Yeah, the beginning of the war, they were getting all these little bits of shrapnel and making gifts out of them and thinking it was really good. They're absolute balmy. I've never known I'm not a political person, but there's absolutely no sense in this.
No, none at all. Let's have a listen to a bit more of what Putin had to say.
You have countries like India, almost 1.5 billion people, China, with powerful economies, but they also have their own domestic political mechanisms and laws. So when somebody tells you that they're going to punish you, you have to think, how can the leadership of those countries, of those big countries, which had difficult periods in their history too, that had to do with colonialism, with attacks on their sovereignty during prolonged periods of time. You have to understand that if one of them shows weakness, his political career will be over, so that influences his behavior. Just as the colonial era is now over, they have to realize that they cannot use this tone in speaking with their partners. But ultimately, things will be sorted out, everything will take its place, and we will see a normal political dialogue again.
That'd be nice, where people actually talk to each other sensibly for once. It is quite beyond belief that these people cannot, should we say, behave themselves. Listen to Callis again. Mark Breckle.
Yeah, it's a very strange thing with Russia, because I was watching a post and it was on about Kazan, and they put the statue of Lenin, a gold statue, in the middle of Kazan, and the culture, they keep it going, even though when it was slightly troubled, they keep their culture going, even when like people like Lenin and Stalin were, not the nicest of people, but it's different. He always seems to talk about his culture, and he never upsets anybody. I just don't know how he does it.
One of them where he has to get along. It's called going along to get along. Nicholas.
Well, do I have my hand up?
Right. Okay, let's just take it down then. There we go.
Any deal has to have approval of Ukrainians as well as Europeans, because any deal has to be implemented by Europeans, or Ukrainians. So if we are not parts, so that this deal would just not work. Yes, like we are not directly negotiating with Putin, because we saw it already before that doesn't bring much result, because the pressure hasn't put Putin in a place where he actually wants peace.
So it was kind of, once again, going off the deep end. Now, I don't know whether you've been aware of this whatsoever, but of course there's been a meeting. Nicholas?
Well, yeah, I heard yesterday that Estonia was not allowing Russian native speakers who lived in Estonia to have a vote. I don't know if that's true or not.
That's true. It's very true. They're not, as far as they're concerned, they're not up to it. So there's been a meeting of the Nordic 8. I don't know if you're aware. Stubb and Zelensky all getting together to discuss it. Hardly like the meeting that's going on between Russia, India, and China. But there we go. It looks like it's basically being held in a hotel. And of course, Zelensky has been reiterating that he wants a ceasefire and everything else. It's just not going to work, and they need to get rid. If they really want peace, then Zelensky has to go. If Zelensky doesn't go, we're never going to get any peace. We're never going to move forward. We're never going to get anything done. And until we do, literally, you're just going to keep seeing that happen over and over and over, which is quite bizarre. Nicholas.
But even if Zelensky goes, you're just going to get a Minsk 3, aren't you? I would have thought, because the West really can't be, and especially Ukraine, it can't be trusted. I think Putin said 8 months ago, what's the point in changing one Banderite president for another? We need to have a Ukrainian president.
Yes, I think you're right. Andy, you had your hand up. Andy?
Yeah. Is it true that Zelensky has asked for £1 billion a month from the EU?
Yep, absolutely. He's asked for £1 billion a month. I know. It's one of those, isn't it? I need a new yacht, or I need 42 more buildings somewhere where nobody knows where I am. It is literally one of those. Louis Bastos.
Hello, good evening, all. Good morning.
Good evening. Hello.
I just think Europe wants the war because they want to prove to America that they can fight without America. And this is the problem. They want to prove that they're better than the NATO itself, France, Germany, and all these chihuahuas, they want to prove something to Trump so that he can, can come in and help.
Yeah.
This is the problem.
Yeah, you've got people like Merz who's well up for a war. But he's actually, it's all smoke and mirrors with these people. They're not actually going to do anything. I mean, when it comes to it, let's have a look. This sums the EU up. Let's have a little look at this. Right. It is one of those, we have to, who wants to stand up for Ukraine? Boom. Who wants to go to the front? No one. Who wants to send others to the front? Everybody's got their hand up. That tells you, that is it in a nutshell. That is the EU in one hit. You don't need to know anything else. I think it's a brilliant meme because it so lays out absolutely everything that you need to know about how they are, what they're talking about, and everything else. It is the EU in one pick. Who wants war against Russia? We do. Who wants to go to the front? Ooh, not us. And of course, we're going to get the coalition of clueless come along as well. Nilus.
Yeah, unfortunately, they just keep on poking the Russian bear with the stick, don't they? And obviously they're going to have their war, even if they don't want it.
You're not wrong.
These people are neocons, and as you know, even when neocons fail, they just double down and just keep on going. And that's probably why the banker lady, she doesn't want to change the government.
Christine Lagarde.
Probably she wants to change Orban, I would have thought. But
oh God, yeah, yeah, she wants to change him out because let's face it, he's just going to be, talking all sorts of nonsense, isn't he? Mark Reckle.
Well, again, Finland was an Axis power, fought with Germany. Romania fought with Germany, and Hungary fought with Germany. They just don't get it. They were wiped out in the Second World War, and now they're going to have a Third World War and try and get wiped out again.
Yeah, I think you're right. Good call. While we're on the subject of things that have been wiped out, Nilus, very quickly.
Well, I don't really agree with that because the Romanian population didn't want to have a pro-European government. They wanted to have a pro-Russian government with Grigor.
Well, they not so much have a pro-Russian government, but they just didn't want war.
Yeah, and Grigori, he wanted to have Romanian resources for the Romanians, not to be privatized. And he wanted, and the same
Nilus,
with the
Nilus, what are you talking about? We can't have Romanians deciding what they want for their own country. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly. That's what that's just
good God. They'll all be at it next. Honestly, you're such a revolutionary.
We've stopped calling you Warren Lagarde after this first one.
Yeah, quite incredible, isn't it? That these people, God forbid they should want to decide what happens in their own country. Mark Reckle.
Yeah, but a bit more clearer that Romania actually sided with the Germany when they invaded into Crimea. That's and that's why they were bottlenecked in trying to get onto Crimea, and they lost a lot of troops. That's what I was trying to explain to
Well, there's more of a bottleneck coming up in a minute, and we'll play that for you in a minute. There is something I want to get to because I think it's very, very important. Now, we're going to put something to bed once and for all. And everybody's going to go, oh, that's not true, that's not true. It is true. We're going to play it. And if at the end of it, you still think I'm wrong, then obviously I'll turn around and go, okay, I got it wrong. I do apologise. You were right. I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. And we're going to go through it because it is time. We've done it once already, but we're going to do it again because Hans Benjamin Braun actually told us about Nord Stream. Now, this is the yacht, the Andromeda. This is the yacht that is meant to have been used by the Ukrainians to blow up Nord Stream. Okay? 6 or 7 of them, all on that yacht, went deep sea diving on that yacht and blew up Nord Stream. Believe that? I've got a bridge to sell you. Even better, let me show you why that is simply nonsense. Have a little look at this.
3 years later, the pace hadn't slowed. It had simply been optimized. By 1983, oil prices were beginning to cool slightly, but production quotas were not. Cost saving was the rule of law, from procurement to personnel. On the 5th of November 1983, aboard the semi-submersible drilling rig Byford Dolphin, anchored in the Frigg gas field of the North Sea, a routine saturation diving operation is underway. 2 saturation divers are returning to the diving chamber after a shift working at depth. They're locked inside a pressurized system, a series of interconnected chambers that maintain deep sea pressure, even at the surface. 2 more are asleep in the chamber. Outside the steel cocoon are 2 dive tenders operating the controls and assisting with the transfer. To move the divers from the diving bell back into the living chamber, a transfer trunk is used. This small cylindrical passage is sealed on both ends, 1 hatch to the diving bell and 1 to the chamber, which is kept at full pressure. But on this day, the procedure falters. While the exact sequence remains debated, what we know is that the trunk is opened to the external environment before it's properly isolated from the living chamber. In a split second, the air pressure inside the chamber, 9 times the atmospheric pressure, escapes violently in an explosive decompression. The force is unimaginable. One of the divers is catapulted from the chamber through the trunk onto the deck of the rig, his body torn apart by the pressure gradients. Autopsy reports reveal his spine and internal organs are forced out through his torso. The other 3 divers are killed instantly inside the chamber. Their bodies show signs of extreme barotrauma. As the gas inside their bodies expands, it pulverizes them from the inside. A dive tender outside the trunk is also killed by the blast wave. No one hears a scream. It's over in milliseconds. The investigation finds a combination of human error and engineering failure. A vital interlock system designed to prevent the outer hatch from opening while under pressure is absent. There are no safeguards in place to prevent such a...
So there we go. That's from the North Sea. That's from a drilling oil rig. And you saw the size of the decompression chambers there. If you think that fits on that yacht and that is on there, by all means, I have a bridge to sell you. Nilus.
Yeah, Louis, you're a nautical expert. He explained that a couple of weeks ago, and that's what convinced me that it's a red herring, that boat.
It's the biggest red herring going. Let's hear from Louis. Louis.
There's no way to have that chamber. You need at least 120-foot ship with very good ballast, because that thing is much longer than the yacht they're showing.
Oh,
that thing is massive. I've been in decompression chamber after diving 45 meters on my master dive in South Africa. And I know the size. I mean, the Agulhas, which goes to the Antarctica, is the one that's got a decompression. And you see how big the Antarctica, that ship is that goes to Antarctica. No ways.
Be confused with the Agulhas current. It is unbelievable, though, Louis, isn't it? That they think for 1 second that anybody will buy this. As Louis was saying there, the decompression chamber that would be needed. Now, we know that there were Americans and everybody else was hovering around doing exercises right by the Nord Stream pipeline the week before. If you think Ukrainians, 7 Ukrainians on a pleasure yacht, and you saw what happened in one of those North Sea accidents, suddenly turned up, and then they were allowed to go out of nowhere. It's complete nonsense what they did.
Those dives were made by Navy SEALs who are very trained for that kind of dive. The people that work on the oil rigs as well. There's no Ukrainians working on oil rigs. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly that. And let's put something into perspective here. That was done certainly the device was laid ready to go, and the deploy, which is the French intelligence ship, was literally a mile away when it went up. So the charges were laid the week before. They were then detonated. The ship was there to make sure that it was there. We can place that French spy ship, intelligence spy ship, in literally 4 or 5 miles away in port. It was actually in Bergen and sailed to within literally 1 mile of that when it went up. And of course, it was there at the time that it went up. And of course, Hans Benjamin Braun, who we've interviewed, who is absolutely brilliant at what he does, has explained exactly the device that was used to destroy it. Ukrainians on a yacht, no chance, not in a million years. You've just heard from a guy there who's done diving in Louis Bastos, who's done his own particular dive. It's complete and utter nonsense. So there we go. Hopefully that's cleared up the Nord Stream nonsense that they come out with for you. And of course, we're hoping that, of course, having seen that, you'll now put to bed any of those ideas. Mark Onza.
I think eventually they'll be going cap in hand for energy to Russia. They'll be very sorry about it. It goes without saying.
Good luck.
But even more to that point, what's happening with these AfD candidates that are dropping dead?
Well, we'll get into that in 2 seconds, as you've just mentioned that. Andy first, and then I'll tell you what's happening with the AfD candidates.
Yeah, just on Nord Stream, how deep was it where the pipeline was?
It's well over 80. I mean, Louis would know more than me, but it's well over 85 meters, I believe.
Yeah, what you said is just complete science fiction, isn't it?
It is, because of the decompression that is needed. Louis would be able to talk about the decompression more than that. Louis, how long you did a 45-meter dive? How long were you in decompression for?
Well, we had to decompress when we came on the deck. First, you have to decompress on the way up.
Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, you get the bends. Yeah.
Yeah, and because we went to 45, the diving team on the boat sends extra tanks to us because we're decompressing, and we might run out of air. So we've got suspended tanks to us to be able to swap over to get new air from tanks. Although they always show in the movie somebody giving oxygen from a tank to somebody who dive free. Never happens. So I get at 45 meters, I have to do at 40 meters 15 minutes.
Yep.
25 meters, another 7 minutes. At 10 meters, another 12 minutes. And then you follow the bubbles up. My decompression chamber at 45, because I didn't do it that way, I went for the master diving course. At 45, you can't even write a zero, write anything at 45. I mean, because you bend. So in the compression chamber, I was in there for 3 hours just to be safe, because the compression chamber was 3 of them, 3 different chambers. So we were able to put all 3 divers in at once. Only 3 divers dive at a time. But I think the Nord Stream is very deep, very deep. It's not as deep as the trench, but I can let you know, because I've got on paper the specific depths of the North Current, I mean the North Sea. I can give you that in 5 minutes. But decompression takes a long time, because if you do not decompress, your blood turns air bubbles, and you basically, the air bubbles start exploding, because as you know, whales, they go down, they get compressed. When they come up, they expand. And it's the opposite of going by plane. If you come out of a plane at 20,000 feet, you feel bigger. You know, you're much bigger, 25,000 feet. And then underneath, it's not normal to be able to come out of such a tank at such a short time.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, and definitely not a boat. I'll give you the Nord Stream depths in a few minutes. I'll just check it out.
No problem at all. So we've got Andy and Mark Breckle want to talk here. Andy first.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Accidental hand raise, sorry.
That's all right, not a problem. Mark Breck.
Well, I've Googled it anyway. Oh, I hope this is right. 80 to 110 metres in the Baltic Sea, and the depth, the most depth is 180 metres.
Thank you very much. So let's
the sabotage incident. I've Googled it, so I don't know how true it is because I know how.
One of those. But you know, they spent a long time on it. Louis Bastos.
At that depth, as you say, that depth, you cannot go down with a free dive. You need the different type of. You need oxygen, hydrogen, all that. You've got a mixed gas. You got a very mixed gas. You cannot dive with a tube like people go crayfishing in Africa.
Yes.
You need three different types. So you've got air, oxygen, some of them nitrogen. I haven't done it, but at that depth you need a completely mix, and it's got to be very, very well mixed. Even then, you still need to go in the decompression chamber.
Okay, good call. Stay with me, Louis, because I want you. Well, Hans Benjamin Braun, Vic, has certainly laid that out. If you type in Warren Thornton and Hans Benjamin Braun, you can listen to what he says. And Vic, I know you're one of these people who very, very carefully dissects everything. Go and have a look at that interview. Tell me he's wrong. I don't think he is. So, Louis Bastos, a drunken evening, a rented yacht, the real story behind the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. So it was drunken guys got together on a rented yacht, went down and blew it up, according to the Wall Street Journal, Louis Bastos.
That's a joke, because the more alcohol you have in you, the thinner your blood. You'll explode. You'll explode like a toad underwater.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You cannot drink alcohol. You cannot do 2 dives in one day unless you do it like you separate hours. That's why when we dive twice, we do a morning dive, then we rest, then we eat well. We normally have pasta, carbohydrates, good food, and then we do a night dive. You have to wait many hours before you can do 2 dives, and at that depth, I don't see how long you cannot stay down very long at that depth. At 100 something meters. At 40 meters, we stay 10, 15 minutes max.
Yep.
Because you got to decompress on the way up. At that depth that these guys went down, I think that was done by a demolition team, SEALs, that knew what they were doing. They had mixed oxygen, nitrogen, and air, and they went down and maybe didn't even get to the bottom. They probably used lead attached to the explosives to reach the stream and then blow it up like that.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So there you go. That's from somebody who has actually done deep diving, and of course we did a deep dive into how it was blown up with Hans Benjamin Braun, and I challenge anyone to go and have a look at that. If you type in Warren Thornton, Nord Stream, Hans Benjamin Braun, literally he is an expert in this sort of thing, and he goes through absolutely everything. You tell me that he's got it wrong, because I
might have 10 minutes or 15 minutes or those numbers wrong in decompression, but 5 minutes in decompression when you're diving for safety, better decompress another 2 minutes or 5 minutes just to be on the safe side, because if your air stays if the air bubbles stay in your blood, then it's over. And if you go up very fast, it is very difficult, even in the decompression chamber, to put you back to normal. I've got my friends who taught me to dive. These guys' wetsuits are like 2 inches thick, because too many dives, you lose your core temperature. And after diving, I mean, it's like a, sorry.
That's it. Thanks very much indeed. Right. That is literally the end of the first hour. If you like what we do here, and we've got a lot more to show you, that of course we can't show you elsewhere we've got a lot more to show you. And if you like what we do here, come across warrenthornton.com.